Some things you see on the road at night are easy to explain. Headlights, reflections, fatigue, but sometimes the details don't match. The distance feels wrong. The timing feels wrong. And by the time you notice what doesn't add up, you're already too far from anywhere to turn back. Hello, little ravens. Tonight, another account has been added to the archive. These are documented first-person testimonies from those who encountered something they still can't explain. If you're drawn to realistic horror, subscribe and listen carefully. Tonight's stories all share one detail. Nothing overtly supernatural, nothing dramatic, just small inconsistencies. Moments on long night drives where reality didn't behave the way it should. And the unsettling part isn't what happened. It's how quietly wrong everything felt while it was happening. I drive at night for a living, but not as a trucker or anything like that. I work in equipment inspection, so I spend a lot of time on regional highways between small industrial towns. Most of my routes are repetitive, and over time you start recognizing very specific landmarks. A broken guardrail, a tilted mile marker, the exact angle of an exit ramp light. That night, I was heading back after a late inspection. Around 1:30 a.m., the highway was nearly empty, just long stretches of dark asphalt and occasional reflective signs catching my headlights. It was one of those drives where your mind goes quiet because nothing changes for miles. About 40 minutes into the drive, I passed exit 87. I remember it clearly because I always glance at that sign. It has a small dent on the right side, and the reflective surface is slightly faded compared to newer signs on the route. It's just a habit at this point, a mental checkpoint that I'm making good time. I kept driving. 5 minutes later, I saw exit 87 again. At first, I didn't think anything of it. My immediate assumption was simple. There must be another exit 87 nearby, maybe for a service road or an alternate ramp. Highways can be weird like that, especially in rural areas where signage overlaps. But as I got closer, I noticed the dent. Same shape, same position. Right edge, slightly caved inward. I slowed down a little, just enough to focus. The overhead light above the sign flickered in the exact same uneven rhythm I had seen minutes earlier. That was the moment my brain stopped treating it as a coincidence. I checked my dashboard clock. Only 6 minutes had passed since the first time I saw that exit. There was no possible loop on that highway. It was a straight route with no major interchanges for at least another 20 miles. I told myself I was just tired. That explanation made sense. Long night drives mess with your perception. You start blending visual memories with real-time input. Maybe I had zoned out and only thought I passed exit 87 earlier. So I kept going. I deliberately focused on the road this time. Lane lines, reflectors, mile markers. 3 minutes later, I passed exit 87 again. Same dent, same flickering light, same faint graffiti tag on the bottom of the signpost. That's when something inside me shifted from confusion to a very quiet kind of alertness. Not panic, not fear, just the awareness that something wasn't behaving logically. I checked my GPS. The route line was perfectly normal. A straight blue path leading forward. No recalculations, no rerouting, no loops. According to the map, I was progressing exactly as expected, but the environment wasn't matching that progression. I adjusted my speed slightly, dropping from 70 to around 60 miles per hour. My thought process was practical. Maybe I had missed a small connecting ramp and unknowingly rejoined the same stretch of highway. Slower speed would help me catch any unusual merges or road splits. The road remained completely linear. No ramps, no interchanges, hookup, no curves sharp enough to disorient orientation. Just a straight night highway. Then I saw it again. Exit 87. This time, I didn't just glance. I stared. The dent was undeniably identical. Even the small reflective sticker near the base, half peeled, was in the exact same position. I felt my hands tighten slightly on the steering wheel, not out of terror, but because my brain was trying to solve a problem that had no logical variables. If I were looping, there should be some structural indication. A curve, a junction, a median shift. There was nothing. The road behind me, visible in the rearview mirror, was just as straight as the road ahead. I made a decision then. Instead of passing the exit, I took it. The ramp curved gently downward, leading to a short access road lit by a single overhead lamp. At the bottom, there was a stop sign and a small sign indicating a local service road that I knew connected back to the highway about half a mile ahead. I stopped the car completely. Engine idling. Hazard lights off. No other vehicles in sight. I sat there for maybe 20 seconds, just listening to the hum of the engine and the faint buzz of the overhead light. Everything felt normal. That was the strange part. No oppressive atmosphere. No sudden sounds. No sense of being watched. Just stillness. Ordinary, quiet stillness. I turned right onto the service road and re-entered the highway, exactly where the sign indicated I should. Back on the main road, I checked my mirrors out of habit. Then I looked ahead. 5 minutes later, I passed exit 87 again. Same dent. Same flicker. Same exact placement relative to the road markings. At that point, I stopped trying to rationalize it in real time. My thinking shifted from explanation to observation. I kept driving, maintaining a steady speed, and mentally tracking time. I did not see exit 87 again after that. The rest of the drive was completely normal. Mile markers progressed correctly. The next major interchange appeared exactly when it should have. My GPS ETA matched perfectly. When I got home, I checked my trip history. According to the route log, I had passed exit 87 once. Just once. No loops. No detours. No anomalies in distance traveled. If the data was correct, then I never re-encountered that exit at all. But I can still describe the dent, the flickering light, and the peeling sticker with unsettling precision. And the detail that bothers me the most isn't that I saw the same exit multiple times. It's that every time I passed it, the spacing between appearances was mathematically consistent with forward movement, as if the road itself never looped. Only that specific point did. There's a particular kind of unease that comes from patterns that shouldn't repeat, yet do. Not loudly, not dramatically, just consistently enough to be noticed. Roads are built on logic, distance, direction, progression. When a fixed landmark appears multiple times without any structural explanation, the mind immediately searches for error, fatigue, distraction, misremembering. And most of the time, that explanation is correct. But what makes accounts like this unsettling isn't the repetition itself. It's the alignment with normal movement. The GPS showed forward travel. The timeline remained coherent. The environment behaved logically, except for one detail that refused to change. If something impossible happens once, it can be dismissed. If it happens repeatedly, in rhythm with reality, it becomes harder to categorize as a simple mistake, especially when the road, the data, and the memory all disagree in different ways. I drive long distances for work, usually at night. Less traffic, fewer delays, and honestly, fewer variables to deal with. I've always preferred controlled environments, and night driving feels controlled, predictable, linear, quiet. At least it used to. This happened on a return trip from a late inspection job about 3 hours outside the city. It was a route I didn't take often, but it wasn't remote in the dramatic sense. Just long stretches of highway, occasional exits, and scattered service areas that closed early. Nothing unusual. I left around 11:40 p.m. The first hour was uneventful. Clear sky, stable signal, GPS functioning normally. I had the radio on low volume, tuned to a local AM station that usually runs talk segments late into the night. Mostly traffic updates, weather, and pre-recorded discussions. Background noise. That's all I wanted. About an hour and 20 minutes into the drive, I noticed the first small inconsistency. The radio host mentioned an exit number I had just passed. Not the highway name, not the region, the exact exit number. At first, I assumed it was coincidence. That exit probably gets mentioned frequently. Maybe it's a known reference point. I didn't think much of it. I just kept driving. Then, about 10 minutes later, the same voice calmly said, "Up ahead, the next right curve is longer than it looks." I remember frowning slightly because my GPS map showed a curve ahead. A wide one. Gradual. Exactly where he described it. Still, that could be traffic commentary. General highway notes. Not impossible. But then he added, "Maintain your speed." No need to slow down. That part bothered me. Not because it was threatening, because it sounded specific. I checked the station frequency. Still the same channel. Signal strength was stable. No static. No distortion? The tone of the host was calm, neutral, almost monotonous. Like he was reading from a script that didn't require emotion. I told myself it was pre-recorded highway guidance content. Some stations do that during late hours. Automated programming. Generic safety commentary. Except the timing was too precise. As I approached the curve, the radio went silent for about 3 seconds. Not static. Not signal loss. Just silence. Then the voice returned and said quietly, "You're staying in the right lane." I hadn't changed lanes at all during the past 30 minutes. And I hadn't used my turn signal once. I instinctively glanced at the rearview mirror and the passenger seat, as if someone inside the car might have spoken. But the cabin was silent, except for the engine and tires. I reached forward and lowered the radio volume. The voice continued speaking, now softer due to the volume drop, but still clear. "There's a sign ahead with reflective damage." I stared at the road. About 40 seconds later, a roadside sign appeared on the shoulder, slightly bent, reflective coating partially peeled off, catching the headlights in an uneven way. That's when the pattern stopped feeling like coincidence. I grabbed my phone and checked the station's live broadcast listing. According to the app, the current program was supposed to be a replay of an earlier talk segment about fuel prices. No traffic guidance, no live host. But the voice on my radio wasn't discussing fuel. It was describing my drive. Not constantly, not every second, just at intervals. Like it was observing specific moments. 5 minutes passed with normal music. Instrumental, low quality, looped. Then the voice returned. "You did not take the previous exit." That was true. I had deliberately skipped an earlier exit because the GPS recommended staying on the main highway. My hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. Now I was actively analyzing possibilities. GPS-linked broadcast? Location-based radio overlay? Some form of targeted signal interference? But the car was older. No smart radio integration. No connected media systems. Just a standard analog receiver. Another silence. Then, calmly, "The fuel level is lower than you think." I looked down. The fuel gauge was just under a quarter tank. I hadn't checked it in at least 40 minutes. It wasn't critically low, but it was lower than I had mentally registered. That detail unsettled me more than the directional comments. Because exits and curves are visible, fuel level is not. I reached over and changed the station. Static. Next station. Music. Normal. Generic. Next. Static again. When I returned to the original frequency, the voice was still there. No transition, no introduction, just continuation. "You are considering turning it off." I immediately turned the radio off. The silence inside the car became heavier than before. Not dramatic, just noticeable. For several minutes, I drove without any audio, just the road, the engine, and the faint hum of the tires on asphalt. It should have felt relieving. Instead, it felt incomplete. Like removing the sound had not removed the presence of observation, only the method of communication. After about 15 minutes, curiosity won. I turned the radio back on. Music, normal programming, no voice, no commentary. No references to exits, curves, or driving behavior. I drove the remaining hour without another incident. When I arrived home, I checked the station's broadcast archive the next day. There was no segment matching what I heard. No traffic guidance block. No late-night host speaking in that tone. Just the scheduled replay of an unrelated talk show. I even drove the same route again 2 weeks later, at the same time, on the same frequency. Nothing unusual happened. But one detail still doesn't add up. Throughout that entire drive, the voice never once gave an incorrect observation. Not about the road. Not about my choices. Not about the car. And it never spoke continuously. Only at moments where something was about to happen, or had just happened. Not guiding, not warning, just narrating. What makes this testimony unsettling isn't the voice. It's the timing. It didn't speak constantly, only at moments that mattered. Specific turns, specific thoughts, specific decisions. Not like a broadcast, more like a response. And the detail that lingers is simple. The driver never announced those choices out loud, yet something narrated them anyway, which shifts the fear, not from being in danger, but from possibly being observed. I drive the same highway every Thursday night. Same route, same departure time. Same fuel stop at mile marker 118. It's a long rural stretch between two small towns, mostly empty. After 10 p.m., no streetlights for most of it. Just reflective lane markers and tree lines that sit back from the road like a dark wall. That night started normal. No rain. Clear sky. Low traffic. I remember checking the clock on the dashboard when I emerged onto the highway. 10:42 p.m. About 20 minutes in, I passed a rest area sign that read, "Rest area 12 miles." I noted it without thinking. I always do. It's a mental checkpoint. 12 miles. I settled into a steady speed, just under the limit, cruise control on. The road was empty in both directions. After what felt like 10 minutes, maybe a little more, I saw the same sign again. Rest area 12 miles. I frowned, assuming I misread the first one. Maybe there were two signs. That happens sometimes. I kept driving. A few minutes later, I checked the clock again. 10:58 p.m. That bothered me slightly. The stretch between where I entered the highway and that rest area sign should take about 25 minutes total. Not almost 20 already, just to still be 12 miles away. Still, I didn't overthink it. Night driving messes with perception sometimes. Then I passed a mile marker. MIL E102. That's when something felt off. Because I knew, very clearly, that when I entered the highway, I merged near mile 131, which meant I had already traveled almost 30 miles. But the rest area was still, apparently, 12 miles away. I tightened my grip on the wheel. A few minutes later, another sign appeared ahead in the headlights. Same green color, same reflective lettering. Rest area 12 miles, exactly the same spacing, same slight tilt on the right post, even the same small scratch across the letter A in area. I am not exaggerating. It looked identical. I remember actually slowing down a little as I passed it, staring at it in my side vision longer than necessary, just to confirm it wasn't a different sign. It wasn't. It was the same one, or something that looked exactly like it. At that point, the road felt longer, not physically longer, just stretched, like I had been driving for far more time than the distance suggested. I checked the clock again. 11:07 p.m., my chest tightened. That meant I had been on that same stretch for over 25 minutes after first seeing the 12 miles sign, which made no sense, because even at a slow speed, I should have reached the rest area already. Then something else happened. I passed the same mile marker again, mile 102. I know how that sounds, but I am absolutely certain. Same reflective dent on the metal. Same slight lean toward the shoulder. I remember whispering, out loud. No, not loudly, just reflexively. The road ahead was still straight, still empty, still quiet. No turns, no exits, no loops, just a straight highway. I looked in the rearview mirror, expecting to see something behind me. Another car, maybe something to ground the moment. Nothing. Just darkness and my own taillights fading into it. Then, maybe 3 minutes later, headlights appeared far ahead. An oncoming car. That alone felt reassuring. A sign of normal traffic, a break in the isolation. As the car approached, I noticed something strange. Its headlights didn't seem to get brighter at a normal rate. They stayed distant longer than they should have, like the car was approaching without actually getting closer. Still oncoming, still aligned in the opposite lane. But the distance between us felt fixed, like we were both moving, but the space between us wasn't shrinking properly. I don't know how else to describe it. Eventually, after what felt like too long, the car finally passed me. Normal speed, normal sound, just a regular sedan. And the second it passed, I saw the rest area. Immediately, right there on the right side. No warning sign. No 2 miles. No 1 mile. Just the entrance. Abrupt, silent, exactly where it should have been a long time ago. I didn't pull in. I kept driving, and within 5 minutes, the mile marker started counting down normally again. Everything returned to normal spacing. The clock progression felt normal again too. No missing time. No sudden jumps. Just normal highway distance. The next week, I drove the same route. Same time, same speed. I passed the first rest area sign. Rest area 12 miles. And exactly 12 miles later, I reached it. Perfectly normal. No repetition, no looping markers, no stretched distance. But one detail still bothers me. Not the signs. Not the time. Not even the mile marker repeating. It's that oncoming car. Because after I passed it, I instinctively checked my mirror. And for a few seconds, there were no headlights behind me at all. On a straight, empty highway, where a car should have been visible for miles. What stands out here isn't fear. It's inconsistency. The distance, the timing, the sequence of events. None of it behaves the way it should. And when multiple details stop adding up at once, the experience stops feeling like a mistake and starts feeling like something else was quietly interfering. I drive the same highway every week. Same departure time, same fuel stop, same exit. It's a long night route between two cities, mostly empty after midnight. Straight stretches, occasional hills, and those long sections where the road feels suspended in darkness. I've been doing it for almost a year now, so the sequence of exits and landmarks is memorized more than consciously remembered. There's one specific exit I always take for coffee. Exit 47. Small gas station. 2 pumps. Fluorescent lights that flicker slightly. Nothing remarkable about it, except that it's always open and always empty. Last Thursday, something didn't line up. I checked the dashboard clock when I passed mile marker 42. 12:18 a.m. That meant exit 47 would come up in about 5 minutes. I remember thinking about how quiet the road was that night. No headlights ahead, none behind. Just the sound of the tires and the low hum of the engine. At 12:23 a.m., I saw the exit sign. Exit 47 -1 mile. Exactly where it should be. I slowed down slightly out of habit. The sign looked normal. Reflective green, same font, same placement. Even the guardrail curve matched what I'd seen dozens of times before. Then I noticed something small. The mile marker next to the sign read 38. I blinked. That wasn't possible. I had just passed marker 42 minutes earlier, and markers on that highway increase consistently. They don't skip backward. I actually checked my GPS screen to make sure I wasn't distracted or on a detour. Still on the main highway, still heading north. No rerouting, no signal loss. The exit ramp appeared ahead. Same shape, same downward slope, same soft right curve that leads to the gas station. And despite the marker inconsistency, my body reacted automatically. I turned on my blinker and took the exit. As soon as my car left the highway, something felt off. Not visually at first, spatially. The ramp felt longer than usual. It normally takes maybe 15 seconds from the highway to the bottom intersection. I've timed it before without thinking. But this time, I was on the ramp for what felt like nearly a minute. No sharp turns, no obstacles, just a long descending stretch of asphalt illuminated by my headlights. I checked the clock again. 12:24 a.m. That didn't make sense either. Even if the ramp had been longer, the time shouldn't have barely changed. It felt like I'd been driving down that slope for far longer than 1 minute. Then the gas station came into view. Same structure, same canopy lights, same 2 pumps. But the lights were brighter than usual. Not flickering, not dim, just intensely steady. I pulled in and parked near pump 2, like I always do. The engine idled. The surroundings were silent. And that's when I noticed the building. The convenience store door was closed, but the interior lights were fully on. Shelves visible. Coffee machine visible. Everything looked operational. But there were no reflections on the glass. At first, I thought it was just the angle of the lighting. So I leaned slightly forward in my seat, expecting to see my headlights reflected on the storefront windows. Nothing. No glare. No shine. No reflection of my car at all. It was like the glass wasn't interacting with light correctly. I turned off the engine. The silence became immediate and heavy. Normally, even at night, you hear something. Electrical hum. Distant highway noise. Wind moving past the canopy. There was none of that. Just stillness. I stepped out of the car. The air felt colder than it should have been for that hour. Not freezing. Just unnaturally cool, like stepping into a space that hadn't been exposed to the outside environment. I walked toward the store door. Halfway there, I noticed the ground. No tire marks. No oil stains. No debris. That alone was strange, because that station always looks slightly warm, used, imperfect. This one looked untouched, like a replica of the place I knew, but reset. I reached the door and pulled the handle. Locked, which was unusual, because it's supposed to be 24 hours. I knocked lightly on the glass. No response. But as I stood there, I saw something that made me step back immediately. Inside the store, near the coffee machine, there was a digital clock mounted on the wall. It read 12:23 a.m. I stared at it for several seconds. My phone read 12:27 a.m. My car clock read 12:27 a.m. The wall clock inside the store was behind. Not by seconds, by minutes, and it wasn't changing. The seconds display was frozen. That's when the realization hit me that something was deeply wrong with the sequence of events since I exited the highway. The ramp duration, the mile marker inconsistency, the lighting, the silence, the frozen clock. None of it aligned with normal time progression. I suddenly felt the urge to leave. Not panic, just a very clear sense that staying longer would be a mistake. I walked back to my car quickly and got inside. When I started the engine, the dashboard clock flickered for a split second, before stabilizing at 12:28 a.m. I reversed and drove back up the ramp. This time, the ramp felt normal, short, direct, exactly how it always is. When I rejoined the highway, the first thing I checked was the mile marker. Correct, not 38. Just to be sure, I kept driving for another 5 minutes. At 12:33 a.m., I saw another exit sign in the distance. Exit 47 minus 1 mile. I slowed down immediately. Same font, same reflective green, same placement. But this time, the mile marker next to it read 46. And when I passed the sign without taking the exit, I saw the real gas station down below. Dim lights, flickering canopy, visible tire marks. A truck parked near pump 1. Everything exactly as it should have been. I didn't stop. I kept driving. Because what unsettled me the most wasn't that I saw something strange. It was that, for several minutes, I seemed to have exited at a place that looked identical to a real location, except its time, space, and physical details didn't fully behave the way reality normally does. And the part one still can't reconcile is this. According to my GPS trip history, there is no recorded stop at exit 47 that night. Only a continuous drive, as if the detour never officially happened. Some inconsistencies are small. A sign slightly out of place. A clock a few minutes behind. Individually, they feel harmless. But when time, space, and sequence all misalign at once, the mind notices before logic can explain it. And perhaps the most unsettling detail is not the frozen clock, but the fact that, in the official record, the stop never occurred at all. Some testimonies end with answers. These ones don't. Not because nothing happened, but because whatever happened refused to behave in a way reality normally does. Distances that didn't match. Voices that appeared without origin. Moments that existed, and then didn't. And when events fail to add up, the mind keeps returning to them, trying to correct something that may never have been wrong in the first place. Hello, little ravens. Another set of accounts has now been preserved in the archive. If these stories stayed with you longer than expected, leave a like and share which detail unsettled you the most. And if you've ever experienced something during a night drive that still doesn't make sense, you can submit your testimony below. On the final screen, I've included 2 more files so you can continue your journey into the unknown. Drive carefully. Some roads are quiet for a reason.